Alright, so day two started after I left the hostel, and I started to try and call Ian because I had so much luggage with me and I was supposed to stay with him that night. Supposed to stay with him. Story gets good. So, um, like my only goal for the day was to go to Tate Modern and then hopefully go to other museums too if I had like time. Um, so I started calling Ian. I started texting him and he didn't respond to anything. I texted him the night before too to say like, "Hey, I'm here." And my friend Peter, I texted him as well, and he like responded. So I was like, "Okay, well, something's not wrong with my phone. He's just not answering." So I started calling, and it wouldn't go through. And it said like, "This number is not um, like labeled as anyone's. Like, this is no one's number. You're crazy." Um, so I was like freaking out. I was like, okay, well, I don't have the number of the person I'm supposed to stay with. So I started texting Jared and Peter. I was like, hey, you guys, can you do me a huge favor and email Ian and ask him to call me? So they did that. And this was like probably 11 in the morning. So I tried to get online and I saw a Starbucks. Hooray. So I was like, oh, they probably have wireless because it's a Starbucks. That's what they do. Um, So I got there, opened my computer, and was like, no, we definitely don't have wireless. So, so I sat there for a minute, hoping that someone would respond to me or Ian would call me, so I could like give him my luggage for the day, and then wander around, and then come back for the night. But he didn't respond to anything, so I was like, oh my god, this is like really frustrating. So I was looking at a map, and I was like, all right, whatever. I'll just like I'm not gonna not go to museums because I have a lot of luggage. So I started going to um, oh, I was wandering around first. I was wandering around King's Cross Station to try and figure out like how to use the busing system or like the underground system. So I started just asking people like, what do I do? Like, I want to get here. I want to get to the British Museum actually. So it took me like maybe an hour to finally get to the British Museum after like getting to the stop where I was supposed to get off and seeing signs for the British Museum and then still not being able to find it for like at least half an hour. Um, so I was like wandering around there for a while. I finally got to the British Museum and had all my luggage. Walked in and it was like spectacular. I was like, yes, I'm finally here. Like it's like sanctuary. And everyone was like lounging around the steps and around the uh, like the lawns out in front. And it was like, oh, it's so like peaceful and happy. So I like stepped in, like stopped for a second to like get money or something out of my purse, and there was this big security guard who came in and was like, "That bag is too big to be on these premises," and I was like, "What?" He was like, "You can't have it here," and I was like, "Well, I don't have anywhere to put it. I was gonna check it in with like a coat check and see if that was okay." He was like, "No, you can't." I was like, "Well, what am I supposed to do with it? Like, I don't have any options." And he was like, "Well, if you go to King's Cross, then you can check your bags." I was like, are you kidding? Because it was like 2 hours since I left King's Cross. So I was like, oh my god. So I like left, um, tried really hard to like get to King's Cross, back to King's Cross really quickly, just so I could like come back and then have time to do anything. So I left, got to King's Cross, checked all of my bags, and after asking around for a while to find out where I should do that, it was like really expensive to do it too. So, like free of all my luggage, I went back to British Museum. I got there at like 1. That was my goal, was to get there by 1. So, um, I was there, I went inside and it was like, okay, like really the architecture and like um the curating was like amazing. It was just really really well put together, but like it just wasn't that interesting of a museum to me. Besides besides like the architecture and how it was built, was really really amazing. So I have some pictures from there. All right, so after that, I think I probably got some food, and then next stop was Tate Modern because that's like the main reason why I came here. So, um, So I asked like coat check lady when I was getting my coat back, like how to get there. I started walking and I accidentally walked past the stop that I was supposed to go to get the underground. So instead, I went to the next stop, and I ended up having I talked to someone there who was like the information person, and they told me also how to get to the Tate. So I had two different directions to get there. And I was like, all right, somehow I can figure this out. So um, I got on the train, had to go back to the stop that I passed, that I walked past. And then from there, I had to change to another station, and then from there, I had to change to like another station. But in the middle of that, something happened in one of the doors of the underground broke, and so they had to like go and fix it, which was basically the conductor just kicking it closed. That was them fixing it, and then so they started to like go again, but apparently someone pulled the emergency brake, or like the emergency stop thing. But I'm not actually sure if they did because they like walked around to figure out like if someone did that, and I think it might have been like an electrical problem where it just said that they did, so they had to shut it down. So that was my first set of directions that like went awry. So from there, I went and got another tram, and so I like got to a pretty close stop to where I was supposed to go. I was supposed to go like two stops further, and then I'd be near the Tate. Um, but then I guess there was some construction going on, so we had to stop early, and so I had to get off again. And I was like, oh, so I went back the other way, but like in a different route. So I ended up using both sets of directions, which was really handy. But by then, I'm like pretty good at the system now. Like now that I'm used to it, it's really really easy. But before I was like, I can't do this at all. So I finally got to the Tate. It was like I had to walk by St. Paul's, and it was like St. Paul's was beautiful. At that point, I was like texting um, Jared again. Jared and Allison and Karen were like helping me all day trying to figure out what I was gonna do that night. But so I was so frustrated by that time. I was like sitting next to St. Paul's, like almost in tears because I couldn't get a hold of Ian and I couldn't find the Tate. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I passed St. Paul's and then across the Millennium Bridge from St. Paul's is Tate. And the sun was like setting at that point, and I was like walking to it, and it was like glorious. It was just like, this is like the mecca of museums for me. And it was like, oh, Tate. So I finally got there. I got there at 4:30, and it's supposed to close at 6, and I was like also really frustrated about that. I was like, I only get to spend like an hour and a half here. That's ridiculous. But turns out Tate on Saturdays is open until 10. So I was like, yes, it's like my sanctuary. Like I can stay here for a very long time. So I ended up spending um like 4 hours, 3.5 maybe there, just wandering around, and it was beautiful. But in the meanwhile, I was like starting to realize, as it was getting darker, I was like realizing I had no way to get in touch with Ian. Like I couldn't get internet anywhere. I couldn't find an internet cafe. Like my phone number for him didn't work at all. And so Karen and Jared started like trying to find hotels for me back in their hostel because they're in Prague right now. Um, so they started like trying to get me hostels or hotels or anything, and everything was booked. So I was like, Ian's not responding to me. I have no contacts here. Like, I might go to Romford a day early, because that's where I am now. So, like, I might go to Romford a day early and then just get a hotel, like, another day here. So I called the hotel and they were like, yeah, we're completely booked. Like, we can't do anything. It's, like, Saturday in London. We can't help you at all. So I was like, oh my god. So I was, like, walking down the Thames, like, kind of crying a little bit, like, this is horrible. I'm gonna have to sleep on the street. Like, there's like a homeless guy that like asked me if I had money, and I was like, I don't have a place to live. Like, I don't have anything. So I ended up like walking to this. Oh, what is it? Oh my gosh, I just remember the hotel name. It was like Pleasure Inn or something. No, it wasn't that at all. But I'll have to find it because I like, oh my god, it was like the greatest thing ever. So I got to this hotel, and there was a guy there, and I was like, hey, I'm kind of at a loss. Like, I have nowhere to go. Do you have any rooms at all here? Like, I will sleep on your couches in the lobby. um, And he was like, yeah, we are completely full. I think all of the other like hotels in this um like this hotel range, whatever thing. Um, he was like, these are all booked. Like everything is booked. So he started looking on the internet for places for me to stay. And he called a hostel for me and they were booked. And he called a hotel and they were booked. And he called another hostel and they were like, yeah, we have one space and it's only for women. And he was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna book you, or I'm like, can I book my friend? And so he like booked it for me, and I was like, I love you so much. Like I owe you. I will do anything for you. And he was like, oh, it's okay. So I'm gonna like write him a spectacular review or like noticey something. Um, oh my god, it was amazing. So, um, the hostel was right by St. Paul's, so it was like 20-minute walk. So we got there. It was actually really cheap, which was nice. Um, so we got there, met a woman from America named Pam. She was from Boston. And she was really sweet. And I was like, oh my god, I just need to sleep. She was like, oh, you've been having a hard day? I was like, yes. So I got in. And then, like, half an hour after I got in, like, as I was putting my stuff down, Ian called me. He was like, hey, where are you? I was like, are you kidding me? He was like, yeah, I just got, the Facebook messages from other people. Like, what are you up to? I was like, I just booked a hostel because I couldn't get a hold of you. And so I was like, well, either I wrote down your number wrong or you typed it out wrong. Either way, like, it doesn't matter. So I'm staying with him tonight, instead of Saturday. But I was just like so tired and upset. So after that, I went next door to a sushi place and got the most amazing sushi ever at like Yo Sushi. It was really really good, and it was just like I was like shoveling down because I had like barely eaten all day. I was just like I need sustenance. So that was like the end of my day. I went back to the hostel, which was really good, but it was like kind of ridiculous too because the beds were like drawers that you slept in basically. But I was just really happy to be somewhere where I could like sleep. So that was my second day.